What's the most fricked up crap you've walked into? Didn't walk into it so much as it walked into me. On a night out in another town waiting for a taxi home, random drunk lass walks around the corner from the strip to where the taxi rank is, lifts her dress up, bends over and just sprays diarrhea up the wall in front of about 20 people, pulls her dress down and walks right into another club. The range was impressive, if nothing else. Back in college, a bunch of friends lived in adjacent apartments in a building and we had the unwritten rule that if the front door was unlocked, come on in. One evening, I walked into one of the apartments and saw the following. The room was heavily filled with smoke. Dude, where's my car was blasting on the TV. A dog barking like crazy. No dogs were allowed in the apartment. 2 men were tied to a metal frame chair, one sitting in the other's lap, and being flogged. 5 people were standing around watching. The sounds of even more people coming from down the hallway. I simply turned around and went home. Didn't want to know. Woke up a Sunday morning, felt like being a good kid and to make my parents some coffee and toast. I get downstairs and get to making a little breakfast tray and go into fire room. To find them going at it, I made eye contact with my dad for a solid 5 seconds before setting down the tray and walking out. I don't make breakfast anymore. He probably stood by the door 15 minutes later completely nude, covered in sweat, one hand on his hip, with the other holding a piece of bacon, talking with his mouth full. Honey, we have a good kid. In my junior year of college, my best friend and I were helping pack up his girlfriend's room at the end of the semester when I heard some weird noise coming from the bathroom. It kind of sounded like someone having sex, so I thought it would be hilarious to kick the door open and surprise them. It turned out the cleaning woman was on the floor having a seizure. I was hanging out with this girl I was trying to date, while her mom was served divorce papers. Friend and I went out to get pizza and took his little sister too. Gone maybe 20 minutes. Got back and his little sister runs inside before us. He walks after her and I follow. As I get in, I see both of them frozen in place staring at something. As I round the corner, I see their dad strangling their mom, both crumpled on the stairs leading up. It was eerily freaking quiet, like she was sitting there dying without a sound. I was in a state of shock, but I wasn't paralyzed by it, so I walked over and calmly grabbed his wrists and pulled his hands from her neck. Still no sounds at all. Super quiet. She started gasping then and the sound snapped everyone out of it. That's when all heck broke loose with everyone screaming and freaking out. My own mom asked why I didn't beat the heck out of him, and I had to explain to her that I was in a sort of calm daze. I was watching someone trying to kill someone else and I just couldn't process it. As an adult now, I would have absolutely beaten to a greasy pulp, but I was like 16 then. She survived with a badly bruised neck and thankfully did everything right. Restraining order, divorce, moved away. I was delivering a parcel to a business in a remote location. Walked in and found a naked chick throwing cucumbers at an elderly gentleman's spread-ass cheeks. She saw me and told me to wait a second while she threw 2 or 3 more. It appeared as though she was trying to javelin them into his crinkly old brown eye. Then she came over, signed and went and started collecting the cucumbers. The old guy shouted thanks. There must have been 30 cucumbers on the floor. Later that day, I delivered a parcel to a guy that was in the middle of being arrested. The cops let him sign though, and he told me it was a dildo for the cop's wife, and the cop replies that if he didn't shut his mouth he'd shove the box up his ass. It was a great day and I still think fondly of that old man and his baggy shit piece. Sometimes reading these stories makes me think that I don't even live on the same planet as some people. RA at a major university in Canada. Girl is locked out of her room and asks for one of us to get into her room. Not out of the norm in our building. She was in a double room and could not get a hold of her roommate. I go up with another RA, knock twice without any noise. Open the door to her roommate and 3 guys in a 4-way. She takes the willy out of her mouth and says, "I was a little busy to answer." I just shut the door and found an empty room with bedding for the shocked student who was a devout Catholic, as she told me many a time as we walked to the other room. Hot dang, that's rough and hilarious to imagine. At my girlfriend's house, I was about to go home when we hear a car crash, and some time later screaming from a young girl. Drunk driver rammed a 12-year-old girl against a school gate. Both her legs crushed and bent in a way it shouldn't bend. Didn't get much sleep that night. Later I found out the girl survived, but is crippled for life. I hope the driver was given maximum penalties for that. Friend got crap faced at a party, was put to bed to sleep it off. Lots of us stayed there as to not drive drunk. Well, when I got up to use the bathroom I found aforementioned passed out dude sitting on the toilet with the lid down. He had his willy in his hand and was sitting in a puddle of crap. At some point in the night he got up to take a crap and decided to jerk off. He was forever known as Poop and Jerk from that point on. Back in college, I had a few friends in a sorority, and we'd go around to parties on the weekends. Walked into some frat party, and while we're still in the entryway of the house, a girl with her pants around her knees is trying to run down the stairs, but trips and falls down half of them. We go over to see if she's okay, and 3 guys appear at the top of the stairs saying she's with us and she's okay. She's incoherent, doesn't know where she is, can't give me her name. The girls and I immediately decide to get her home. We get her pants back on, and I carry her out the door while we deal with the protests of the guys behind her. When in the car, she can't tell us where she lives, doesn't have her phone, and can't give us any phone numbers. She's totally out of it. Thankfully she had her wallet and did, so we found her apartment that way, dropped her off, and left her with her roommate. Got a message from a friend of my then girlfriend. Told me I needed to go to my girlfriend's house because she was feeling rather horny. Was odd that her friend sent me this message, but I thought I was getting sex so I hauled ass over there. She was horny alright. Horny for the 2 dudes spit roasting her. Good on that friend for telling you to check it out. Was delivering pizza, getting off an elevator. As the door opened, a topless woman was standing there squeaking a rubber ducky between her teeth. Her boyfriend stood in their apartment door busting up. They tipped $20. Also walked in on one of my ex-roommates rubbing one out and I didn't realize what was going on until I saw his hog. I set the Xbox controller down I was returning and walked out. We were friends for years and never spoke of it. Was backpacking through Europe with 3 buddies years ago, and this happened in Amsterdam. One of our friends had gotten sick during the trip and had missed a lot of our Prague stint and all of our Berlin stint, roughly 10 days. In Amsterdam he finally was feeling better and decided to join us on one of those touristy pub crawls. On the very first night out since illness. Long story short, he gets absolutely hammered and is all over the place. When we move on to a different bar with the group, we look around and can't find him anymore. 10 PM. We assume he's either gone home or is gonna meet up with us, but we were drunk too and just assumed the best. Welp, now it's 4 AM and we're walking home to our hostel without any sign of him. We're hoping he's home in the hostel sleeping. Well, we get back and open the door and sure enough there he was in the fetal position in his boxes on the floor of the hostel hotel room. What was quickly a sigh of relief to find him turned into horror and disgust, as we notice he, along with the entire room, is covered in crap, like full-blown brown town everywhere, on the beds, on the walls, all over him, his back, hands. Think of that scene in Dumb and Dumberer with Bob Saget in the bathroom. There's crap and puke smeared on just about every bed, and there was crap and vomit all over the bathroom. The kicker, too, was that his clothes had been neatly folded at the end of his bed. He has no recollection of what happened that night. I can still smell and see that room 10 years later. A number of years back while working as a nurse on night shift, I walked into her room as the patient's sister was getting out of bed, fully nude. The patient was still in bed, fully nude. I used to work in a prison. It's a British female prison and I was a male officer. At lockup time I was getting everyone back to their cells, mainly by ineffectively shouting at the women, but slowly they were getting banged up for the night. I walked in this one cell to check and on the floor were 2 women inserting a 2L full Coke bottle into the other. Fat end first. The inserters were about 25 and the receiver 50. I just noped out of there. Came back 5 minutes later and everyone was back in their own cell with just the receiver sat watching TV in her own cell. Not a word was said by me or them. Locked everyone away and never told anyone except my wife when I got home. And she was like, yeah well you can fit a baby out that way, a Coke bottle isn't that much wider. At university I walked in on my housemate having cocaine blown up his ass with a bicycle pump by his girlfriend. They're married now so there's someone out there for everyone. Imagine how many other things they tried and got bored with before reaching that level of weird. When I was about 11 or 12, I went outside to go play and quickly found a trail of dead and puppies that my pregnant Rottweiler had left in the yard. I vividly remember that one was missing its head. I followed 3 or 4 of them into the detached garage where she stayed and found her eating them. We were able to save 3. It was her first litter and she clearly did not want them, so we had to take over their care. Still turns my stomach to think about. Sounds similar to the time one of our cats had her litter in a hollow part of the wall. When I reached in to pull them out, I pulled out the head of one of the kittens. She killed them all. You have been visited by the Lord of the Good Boys. Comment who's a good boy to instantly become part of the Good Boy Squad. I hope you enjoyed the video and won't find yourself walking into fricked stuff like those Redditors. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.